is The Drew Mariani Show on Relevant Radio.
It's the big business news of the afternoon, and also could be big news for us as Catholics.
Only 11 days after the world's richest man abruptly said he might buy Twitter, the deal is done. Twitter's board had initially indicated it would not make a deal and was coming up with ways to block Musk from buying the platform that he's always been so critical of. But now the board announcing they have a deal for $44 billion. Elon Musk is buying Twitter. It'll go private, Musk indicating he wants to open it up to more free speech. Alex Stone, ABC News.
Thanks, ABC News, for that. Why Twitter's sale to Elon Musk could actually be good news for us as Catholics. We'll explain why, because there's a lot to uncover underneath this $44 billion. Yeah, you heard correctly. That's with a B, this $44 billion deal. Let's unwrap some of the details of this deal with James Czerniawski, who is a senior policy analyst in technology and innovation for Americans for Prosperity. You have seen him in Real Clear Future. He has written for the Washington Examiner, the Deseret News, and the Salt Lake Tribune. Joining us this afternoon here on the Drew Mariani Show. James, thank you so much. What do you make of this deal?
Thanks for having me. I think that this deal is fascinating. I know that you opened with saying that it's only been 11 days, and it really doesn't feel like that. It feels like this has been dragging on for so long with so many twists and turns, but it's really fascinating. I mean, this was a situation where Elon Musk was very dedicated to wanting to purchase Twitter. He thought that by purchasing it and taking it private, he could more effectively instill the kinds of values that he's looking for on the platform writ large. And, you know, originally, like you had mentioned, the board was not receptive to it. They had implemented a poison pill defense strategy to try to prevent Musk from being able to acquire more shares. But once he was able to secure the financing, it kind of put the board into a bind. They couldn't sit there and hold out any longer because they had a fiduciary responsibility to do right by their shareholders. And that's why I think we got to where we were today. So now, you know, it looks like the signing is on the wall, and Elon Musk is going to officially be buying Twitter and taking it private in the near future. So that's very exciting.
And James, why this appears, at least on paper, we were talking about this in the last hour with Patrick Madrid, why it appears to be good news for us as Catholics is because he wants to, in essence, lift all the governors off Twitter and all those people who are banned by Twitter because he believes in the free and open exchange of ideas.
Yeah, Elon Musk has certainly self-identified himself as a free speech absolutist. So we know that to some degree, we certainly think that Elon would want to go and see more exchange of ideas on the platform than is currently there, which, you know, it should be interesting to see how that unfolds when it comes to expression of religion and other areas where there might not have been as much vibrant discourse in recent years.
As we spend time with James Czerniawski and unwrapping this deal that broke about an hour and a half ago about Elon Musk buying Twitter for $44 billion, we have time for some of your calls, and I'm curious at 888-914-9149, how have you used Twitter or other means of social media to share your faith? Be it Twitter, Instagram, maybe on Facebook. How have you shared your faith up on social media? And 888-914-9149. I would assume, James, that if Elon Musk is successful with Twitter and all of these governors are released and we have this free and open exchange of ideas and that we use it as a platform to evangelize, the numbers are going to go up, and you can't avoid the bottom line. And if there's a better bottom line at Twitter, then Instagram and Facebook have got to follow. Makes sense, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what ultimately remains to be seen, because the whole reason why Twitter was ultimately being able to get acquired by Elon Musk was that it was a company that was struggling to have consistent profits, to have healthy margins in that respect, to go and have consistent revenue streams coming in. So Elon Musk has to certainly, you know, figure out what his team looks like, to figure out the business side of the equation. And as long as that works for what the company is going to be in his vision, and then more people are able to join to go and express themselves in whatever way they're trying to, then I think it becomes increasingly difficult if it becomes successful for other companies to ignore what's going on at Twitter. At the end of the day, they're their own private entities. They'll make their own decisions. But when a company's being successful and it's driving more users to there and more attention, I think that it makes it hard for existing platforms to try to stay the course that they're currently on. So it'll be interesting to see.
I am sure you have seen your own Twitter account and social media light up since the news this afternoon, James. A lot of conservatives are lauding Musk for taking over Twitter, but there is also the rumblings already of just saying, well, okay, this is going from one billionaire to another billionaire. What's to stop Musk from exercising the same restrictive control that the current owners exercise? Could that boomerang happen to us?
Oh, it's entirely possible. At the end of the day, as conservatives, we respect private property rights. It's a central tenet to how we view restricting the ability of the government to interfere in our daily lives. So that First Amendment is a restriction on government action to abridge our freedom of speech. So it does not apply to private property. It's entirely possible that Elon Musk could go and sit there and have things that might be more restrictive in other ways than perhaps Twitter is as it currently exists, and in other areas it might be more open. That's something that we'll have to go and see how he tinkers with the rules accordingly, right? So I think that it's entirely possible, but I think that he does genuinely want to try to find what that right balance looks like for Twitter moving forward. So, again, he can certainly do it, but it's not his intention as of this moment, so we just got to go and see how this all plays out.
With James Czerniawski, we're talking about Elon Musk buying Twitter today and the ramifications for you and me as Catholics. It should be good news because Musk is a big fan of the First Amendment, wants to bring all of those people who have been banned from Twitter back to the platform. At least that's what he's saying in these very early stages. And we're also talking here on the Drew Mariani Show about how you have used social media to evangelize and what's happened to you. Julie brings up a good point in this conversation, joining us from St. Paul, Minnesota. Julie, good afternoon. Welcome to the Drew Mariani Show. You're on with James. Go ahead.
Hi. I know he's a big proponent of free speech, but it's still, no matter who you have at the helm, especially if it's just one person, I still am a little leery of, the free speech versus, spewing lies. And we got to be careful out there because, there's just so much on the internet that is not true. There's so much in any social media that's not true. And so I really think we got to be careful.
Yeah, it really is a slippery slope, isn't it, James? And it has been for a long time.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why we have the current landscape that we do right now, is that there is a lot of information out there that is available at people's fingertips that might not have been there even 10, 15 years ago in some ways. So they definitely face a very unique set of problems that they have to tackle. And I think that wanting to address misinformation, as the caller might have been suggesting, or some of that other stuff is certainly valid. It's about striking that proper balance between what is misinformation and problematic content in that sense versus what is someone simply expressing, their desired viewpoints, if you will, right? So I think that that's the balance that we're going to see, Elon Musk have to figure out. It's one thing to be a critic of a company. It's another one to go and buy it and then have to try to fix it yourself, right? So I think that this is going to be a very interesting conversation, to say the least.
Speaking to Julie's point and the one that you just brought up, James, has social media diminished our ability to discern what's right and what's wrong?
Not necessarily. Actually, I think that the data out there right now shows that for young people, they're actually pretty keen at being able to identify misinformation or things that just are not genuinely good content, more so than perhaps their predecessors. And that's attributed to the fact that they're more native on these digital platforms than we have been in years past. So as people are more familiar with the technology, I think they're a little bit more, attuned to what to expect. So it might be a problem right now, but I do think that we as a society and as a people are certainly building up the muscles, if you will, to go and figure out how to navigate a diverse and overwhelming at times online ecosystem that has a lot of information out there.
In your experience, James, have you gone on social media and just say, no, this is completely wrong, here's the truth? And what kind of pushback did you get?
Yeah, I mean, that's always the case when it comes to stuff that I'm working on in the policy space with technology. A lot of people don't necessarily understand what the underlying law is and what it says and what it means. So I've certainly done that pushback, and it depends, right, as to who you're interacting with. Some people are trolls, and they want to just go and get a response out of you, so you always have to look out for that. There are other people that are just bad faith actors and just want to promote whatever it is that they're promoting. And then there's some other people who might just be misinformed that want to have a genuine conversation with you. And for me, that's my favorite part, because regardless of what happens in that outcome, I get to go and really try to figure out how to navigate this online ecosystem in a way that can be beneficial for me. I want to be in a position where I'm helping people understand what the law actually says, what the implications are for these companies if we're talking from a policy perspective. So there's a very vibrant community in Twitter and a lot of these platforms that I love to take advantage of.
And looking what's up there on social media, that great philosopher Kenny Rogers, you got to know when to hold him and when to fold him. You got to know when to just simply walk away and just say, please, why, in the grand scheme of things, why am I engaging in this conversation?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I wish more people took that advice because, I think that's what people love to play to right now is trying to rile everybody out.
It's the computer version of getting angry of someone who cut you off in traffic. There's nothing you can do about it. Only you're angry, but now you're behind the computer. Just shut the darn thing off. James, thanks so much for giving us that perspective. James Czerniawski, Senior Policy Analyst in Technology and Innovation for Americans for Prosperity.